Suzie is an average teenage girl. She goes to school, has friends, and teen girl hobbies. Suzie has something else most teen girls have: insecurities, anxiety, and lots of drama. Suzie is a typical teenage girl, but she's far more vulnerable than most people think. The most vulnerable member of our society are adolescent girls because of the insecurities they face. To be clear, Suzie is not me, nor is Suzie anyone I know. Suzie is fictional, but she represents a vulnerable target because of her normal insecurities. Over the summer, I read numerous books on a cultural phenomenon occurring in our society, from liberals like Abigail Shrier, who wrote Irreversible Damage, the transgender craze seducing our daughters, to conservatives like Matt Walsh, who wrote What is a Woman? Both sides of our society are raising the alarm for an ongoing trend in our nation, a national phenomenon, the gender identity agenda. The advocates of this agenda target girls like Suzie. They search for insecure, lonely girls and then appeal to them by targeting their insecurities and offering a solution. In this speech, I want to explain how gender advocate targeting is occurring today. Suppose you have teenage girls in your home or your spheres. In that case, I hope that by understanding how gender ideologues target young women, we can better protect girls like Suzie from this threat. Girls like Suzie can have a great family and lots of friends. Still, it's almost guaranteed that they will have insecurities. One of the main insecurities teen girls have is physical. Puberty is a trial for anyone, girls especially. Puberty is when today's transgender craze among girls has its first window. In her book Irreversible Damage, Abigail Shrier wrote, "The stress brought on by puberty is age-old. What is new is today's adolescents' relative inability to bear it, marked by the presence of apparent alternatives. The changes that girls undergo during puberty are hard. During this time period, gender ideologues can reach girls in 3 key ways. During the early stages of puberty, when girls are just beginning to change, trans activists will target girls by presenting the option of pausing puberty. This brings up an interesting idea. How do you pause puberty? According to the Mayo Clinic, when taken regularly, GnRH analogs suppress the body's release of sex hormones, including testosterone and estrogen, during puberty. Gender-affirming doctors will compare the use of blockers to hitting pause on your music. According to these doctors, if you stop taking the drugs, puberty resumes, like the next note of a song. Unfortunately, there have been minimal studies on the long-term effect of blockers, and the current generation taking these medications is the first to do so. Next, girls are targeted through the use of non-invasive physical suppression. Trans activists will target girls' physical changes as needing to be suppressed because they cause discomfort. Hiding those changes becomes an obvious target. The suppression techniques are superficial, but they open the door to more permanent measures when the discomfort remains. The final methods are permanent. Girls are offered testosterone to reduce their feminine attributes and increase masculine ones. After cross-sex hormones, the ultimate step is medically transitioning with surgery. Physical insecurities aren't the only problem young girls face that leaves them vulnerable. Teen girls also face social pressures. The pressure to look better, be more intelligent, become popular, and have more friends. Suzie wants to feel validated for the person she is, although she's not entirely sure who that even is yet. The trans community will exploit this uncertainty. What Suzie sees is a diverse group of people expressing their insecurities in the trans community via social media. The solution is an acceptance of affirming some version of self-re-identification. The trans community is filled with a reinvention of self through gender transition. Coming out is celebrated, which leads to validation of the re-identification. Suzie is affected by peer contagion. Many experts are noticing that the transgender contagion is typically confined to friend groups. When a girl comes out as trans, her friends follow suit. These experts believe that empathy in social circles, which can be an excellent thing, in this case is terrible because of the extreme repercussions. Suzie struggles with self-worth, and according to gender ideologues, her self-worth comes from proper conformity to her sexuality. Her social loneliness relates to confusion from improperly relating to her innate sexual identity. The trans community will exploit her lack of self-worth by validating those feelings. No one accepts you for who you are because you aren't who you are. No one accepts you for a girl because you are a boy. In a Daily Wire article, Chloe Cole states, "My teenage life has been the culmination of excruciating pain, regret, and most importantly, injustice. I have been emotionally and physically damaged and stunted by so-called medical professionals in my most important developmental period. I was butchered by an institution that we trust more than anything else in our lives." Chloe is only 18, and she has already gone through traumatizing experiences. When she was younger, she was coerced by medical officials and told that her gender dysphoria wouldn't resolve on its own, contrary to the statistics. Chloe's parents were manipulated into supporting her transition and were informed by Chloe's doctors that their daughter was at a high risk of suicide, despite the fact that Chloe showed no signs of depression. Chloe was never offered an alternative to medically transitioning. The informed consent that doctors obtained from her for both hormones and surgery failed to exhaustively list the risks and side effects associated with the treatments. This radical, off-label, and inadequately studied course of chemical and surgical treatments for Chloe's mental condition amounted to medical experimentation on Chloe. These experimental procedures are extremely dangerous, especially to young patients, but also very lucrative to the defendants. Chloe and her parents are now suing her doctors for the experimental hormones and surgery, but the consequences she faces will forever be with her. But detransitioners like Chloe are putting their stories into the world to show girls the harsh reality, to help struggling young girls not make the same mistakes. But what can you do if you have a Suzie in your life? In order to help her, you have to understand Suzie and her struggles. As a teen girl, I can tell you that girls' insecurities may seem overwhelming. They almost always come from a lack of self-worth, believing that I'm not good enough. Most importantly, feeling a lack of identity and purpose, which all stems from immaturity and a lack of trust in their creator. Girls need encouragement. They need to know that they are loved and valued by their families, and especially by God. This is a challenging idea to grasp outside of an understanding that we are all children of God and are made in His image. That means we are valuable. Suzie is valuable. Chloe is valuable. All of God's children are valuable to Him. And the feelings we have about ourselves that seem strange do not remove this truth. They are lies that teen girls are susceptible to because, frankly, teen girls are emotional. And when you add in the insecurities, it becomes a feeding ground for dark ideology. You may feel strange about yourself. You may want to climb trees and play with robots instead of dolls and wear dresses, and that's okay. Girls do not have to be like other girls. We all need to know that our peers, friends, and social circles do not define us or make us who we are. The gender ideological craze is sweeping across our society. It is a national phenomenon unheard of in history, reaching a frenzied pitch in our culture's consciousness. Girls around you may have been swept up in this craze, but what they need to know, and what we need to tell Suzie when we meet her, is that God made her, and he doesn't make mistakes, and he thinks she's beautiful.